Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nurturing Astrology podcast and Astrology in Education. I'm here with my coalition besties, Melody Whinnery and Danielle Rothschild from Little Mystic School. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hello.
So we promised we would bring you some Astrology and Education Coalition convos, and this is another one we are going to do about Mercury retrograde. Specifically, we have one coming up this summer. So we want to dive into it and give you some insights, reminders, tips, strategies for how to navigate this, whether you are a parent, a teacher, a homeschooler, educator of any kind, right, ladies? So let's
Right.
get into it. Danielle, kick us off and remind everybody what Mercury is, Mercury retrograde, and some of the do's and don'ts, maybe.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be back here with you. So we have Mercury stationing retrograde on June 29th in
Mhm.
just a few weeks, and it's going to be there until July 23rd. Mercury will be retrograde in the sign of Cancer. What exactly is Mercury retrograde? Well, it's an optical illusion from our view on Earth. So it's where Mercury, the planet Mercury, appears to slow down and move backwards in the sky. And this is why, symbolically, when Mercury is retrograde, it can really feel like a slowdown. Mercury rules communication, technology, travel, learning, writing, and how information moves between people. So during Mercury retrograde, what can happen is you notice a lot of tech issues come about. There's delays when you travel, miscommunications, old people coming back into your life, old conversations resurfacing, or this need to repeat and revise things. So the deeper meaning behind Mercury retrograde is what I call the 5 R's: review, rethink, repair, reconnect, and revisit. Mercury retrograde, it sounds scary because it's kind of been demonized in astrology, but I promise you it's not. In fact, one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is treating it like it's something to fear.
Yeah.
It's not here to ruin your life. It really
No.
reveals where things in your life need more attention and where you may have skipped over things and you need to revisit them and rethink what it is that you're doing, whether it's in your relationships or your work. I mean, it could be anything. And it's specifically wherever Mercury is stationing retrograde in your personal house. That's an area of life where you're going to want to revisit and reflect on that and, you know, rethink some of the topics with regards to that area of life. So Mercury retrograde is not at all here to destroy communication or tech issues. It's here to show us where our communication, where our relationship with tech, where our relationships were maybe unclear or didn't have a solid foundation. I I've been working with Mercury retrograde for a few years now, but really seriously over the last year, and I can tell you that I have moved from a place of fearing it and like dreading it to now a place of like, oh, this is like permission for me to actually slow down and with Mercury stationing retrograde in Cancer, that's going to be in my ninth house, reviewing the way that I teach others, my belief systems. Yeah, it's really, I think it's like a juicy period of time where it allows you to kind of like connect to the cycles of Earth and connect to what it is that we're all collectively moving together on. So that is Mercury retrograde in a nutshell.
In a nutshell. I'm glad you touched on that because I've become actually a fan of Mercury retrograde. I've always been trying to dispel the dark, this fear around it. And I've come to be like, oh, I can't wait. I tend to get a lot done during Mercury retrograde because it is a time, like you said, to go back. Oh my gosh, I haven't had time for this. I need to back up that. My car needs an oil change. I need to, you know what I mean? Like those things are real. And I look forward to the times that they slow down. And I do think you can test it. I tell people all the time, test it. Go shopping during Mercury retrograde. I guarantee you, you're making returns. You know, like things like that. You think twice about what you bought and you're like, yeah, maybe not. So I prepare myself. Oh, Mercury's retrograde. I'm going to buy this, but I'm going to keep my receipt because I may change my mind on this. You know what I mean? So it's just that kind of awareness. But yeah, I've come to love Mercury retrograde, honestly. And I
Mhm.
think it's a big, important note to remember it's a time of taking a deep breath, right? We just talked about this in our last episode, Melody, in terms of like Mercury retrograde. We touched on a little bit, taking a deep breath, slowing down,
Mhm.
reviewing, revising. What are
Yes.
your thoughts on Mercury retrograde, Melody?
Oh, well, mine's always kind of come in a little bit early. As far as I think it gets a little bit of a fearful thing because from people because a lot of times there's some sort of jarring, like I
Yeah.
forgot something or something happened or broke, and that can be jarring, and it's normal for our bodies to have a fearful response. But knowing that Mercury is in retrograde, rather than allowing myself to anticipate fear, I think to myself, oh, things are going to happen during this time that could produce that fearful quick reaction. I'm going to prepare myself kindly ahead of time to be like, oh, right, we're
Mm,
entering the season. And Mercury being what it is, times and seasons are something that it pays attention to as well. Simply because it does have this 3 times a year retrograde cycle.
yeah.
We already, as humans, pay attention to the seasonal shifts,
Yes.
months, weeks, days. And so I think paying attention to Mercury when it goes retrograde is one more layer. If you
Yeah.
take a day of rest every week as part of your belief system, this is a 3 times a year quarterly
Yeah.
rest period or review period. Take stock of
Mm.
what you have going on, what you're learning. I use it for reintegration.
Mm,
I got the image of a wave, when it pulls back in before it
Yes.
comes out. There it is.
yeah.
There's that's a good reminder of it happens 3 or 4 times a year. So there is
Mhm.
this. It does create an ebb and flow that is very natural. And so if we work with the rhythms of the energies, it can be very productive for us. And this can
Oh,
translate into a lot of different areas. Yes.
yes. One other thing is it's usually in the same element every year. So
Yes.
if you've got it in what did we just have it in? We had it in Pisces. Was it
Mm-hmm.
retrograde in Pisces?
Pisces,
Oh, right. And it's going to be in
Yes,
Cancer.
Pisces. So then
Cancer,
Cancer, and then
and
it'll
then we
be
get
retrograde in
Scorpio.
Scorpio in
Mhm.
the
Oh,
rest of the year. So it's a water Mercury retrograde year. So
Mhm.
the water themes of your emotions, your home, your memories, and remembering,
Yes.
especially in Cancer, remembering.
Ooh, that's a
I
good
was
one.
just thinking as you were talking, Melody, that, it's interesting that people are so afraid of Mercury retrograde. And I think it actually speaks to um, where we are at collectively. This is like just a side note, with late stage capitalism and this technology driven society that we live in, for us to slow down as a society, for us to possibly have the things that we rely on, the tech that we rely on,
Mm.
break or not show up for us in as predictable of a manner, it could feel really jarring and fearful. But it almost is like a wake up call in many ways.
I love that.
Like
Yeah,
it's like it brings us back to our roots, but in many like I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say. Do you kind of get it? Like
I
it
do. I
yeah.
do. Um, when we're disconnected from where our attention has been put in, this crystalline screen, and we come kind of snap back into our bodies. I heard when I said the word remember, I went, wait, that's not just about memory. Member is like your body. So I'm coming back into my body. And yeah, I don't know if I'm saying it very well either. Hello,
Yeah.
Mercury. But I hear what you're saying and it resonates.
Yeah, I just feel like 100, 200 years ago, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal, but it kind of like now speaks to
Mm.
the society that we live in,
Ooh.
which
Well,
is
yeah, good
interesting to
point.
me. It just came to me.
It's a good
That's
connection.
fascinating.
Mercury is in Gemini right now, so it's interesting making those connections. That's
Hmm.
very true because they lived much more naturally with the flow and there wasn't that pressure, and, the clickable things that get people's attention and like, you have to do this, Mercury's retrograde, da, da, da. And then you're like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. you know? And then because it's water, it's Cancer, like you're talking about memory and family. This is a great time it's going to be summer too. It happens in, like you said, end of June through most of July. That's the summer month. So let's review, let's retract and be with our families. Let's kind of step back into what's really meaningful. What kinds of connections are really most meaningful to us? Our family, spending that quality time, having conversations, playing games, like doing things that create memories, create new memories and good memories, and so it's about getting maybe together with family you haven't seen in a while, or getting the kids together with cousins or friends, taking short trips or vacations and being really mindful. It is Mercury retrograde. Make sure you plan for potential delays and those kinds of things. It's all about just rolling with going with the flow a little bit more during that. I think you put together some notes too, Danielle, about this Mercury retrograde for, parents, educators, teachers, since we are this Astrology and Education Coalition, that is kind of our theme from this perspective. This can help across the board, right? So want to share some of your thoughts that you put together about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to piggyback off of what you said, this upcoming Mercury retrograde will be in Cancer. So the ruler of this retrograde will be the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So the themes are more emotional and family centered. And it's perfect because in the Northern Hemisphere, it's the summertime and we have, schools are off. And so you are, like you said, reconnecting with your family. Cancer and the moon are connected to home, family, memory, mothering, emotional safety and protection.
Mm-hmm.
So, what this retrograde can bring up is some possible family misunderstandings, old memories, some emotional sensitivity, conversations with your kids or with relatives, and the way that we communicate when we feel hurt or possibly defensive. So, Mercury retrograde in Cancer brings the conversation home. It's also, like I said, during the summertime. So the timing is actually very useful for this retrograde. Families are halfway through the year. School is out, routines have now shifted, and children are going to be home more. So the family dynamic is going to start to become more visible. So for parents, something you may want to think about during this time is what has worked in our family this last year and what has not?
Hmm.
And then for educators, what has worked in my classroom over the last year and what needs to change when we start school again. So for educators, Mercury retrograde is really a chance for you to look back on the last 6 months of the year and ask yourself, what students did I understand well? What, were my instructions clear? Where did I rely too much on verbal communication? Which students needed more visual, sensory, movement-based support? What classroom routines worked? And what routines created stress? So this is a great time for you to just review and reflect on your teaching experience over the last few months so that you can make conscious choices as we move into the new school year. So for parents, back to parents.
But wait, you should tell everyone where they can get the information this summer to help them.
Oh, so I have two offers that I'm currently promoting. So when it comes to Mercury, I think all three of us can agree it is absolutely one of the most important planets to study in childhood. It
Hmm.
shows you and reveals your child's communication style, the ways that they learn best, um, and their inner belief system.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote a book called The Mercury Mind, which is a 40-page book that reviews Mercury in every single sign, in every single house, different nervous system patterns and different learning styles. So you can grab that by heading over to my website, www.littlemysticschool.com. You could also find me on Instagram, same name. And then one other thing that I am currently offering is a Mercury mini audit, where I do a deep dive on your exact Mercury placement, what your strengths are, what makes you a magnetic communicator, what some of your blocks may be, some of the ways that you learn best. And I'm going to be offering this for both parents, educators, but also for parents if they want to get it for their kids as well. And whenever I do any type of reading for kids, if they are under the age of like 18, I typically don't read for them.
Yeah, you
Maybe
read the
16,
parent.
17, depending. That's something I discuss one-on-one with the parent, but I don't read, one-on-one with a young child. So this is strictly for parents.
And then you created the astrology elemental regulation guide for our coalition that is available as
Yes.
well. So you
If
can
you
go
haven't
to,
gotten it, grab
yes.
it. It is
Hmm.
so helpful. It's so simple.
Yeah. Because that's for teachers and parents, educators. Like you can learn that for your classroom, for yourself, for your kids as well. So that's free that you can get on our list and join us and start using that, practicing it over the summer for yourself. Because in that guide, we talk about for the educator, knowing that about yourself and knowing how to regulate yourself first and setting the tone for your classroom is really important. So this is a great time over the summer to review that for yourself and then learn those things and be aware of them. So when you enter your classroom, you can actually start observing and working with that guide. I know Melody loves that guide, and that's available at Nurturing Astrology / astrology and education. And you can get on there and join the coalition and learn more about what we're doing. But those are really great resources that are available now. Great time to review those things over the summer. So, yeah, Melody, did you have a thought too? Anything
I
you want to offer?
I wanted to underscore Danielle's recommendation to teachers to take the time and review. And
Yeah.
here's why, for astro nerds everywhere. um, Jupiter went retrograde in the same degrees, 25, 26 Cancer back to 15, 16 degrees Cancer. Jupiter went retrograde between November 10th or November 11th to March 10th. Mercury's going over that exact same space during this Mercury retrograde period, and it presents a unique opportunity. Here's why. Gemini and Sagittarius are on that polarity. They're connected. Gemini is sort of an archetypal student learning, and Sagittarius is that archetypal teaching, communicating. And because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, it has that unique relationship with Mercury that rules Gemini. And because they both went over that same space, you may see specifically places to review that happened between November and March that may come back up again this July, end of
Yeah.
June. Yeah.
That's
And
brilliant.
speaking of reviewing and going back and listening to, as Melly was pointing that out, we have a bunch of thought starters, including one on the polarity of Jupiter and
Yes.
of Gemini and Sag. So, when you're chilling at the beach or you want to listen to something that, can really support you, maybe it's looking back at some of the thought starters you've already done, spending time with some of these resources that are free, make scheduling some time to pick up Danielle's offers, and also with potential booking a session. I know I do parent-child readings, and I have some availability over the summer. That will be obviously less. I have some blocks out in the calendar for the summer. We all need to take our breaks. I'm sure Danielle and Melody do as well. But you have resources, so maybe it's also about looking and considering, hey, I've been meaning to reach out and maybe look at my child's chart a little bit more, to learn a little bit more about them and our relationship, so we can, like you said, assess the dynamic of the family, how we're all doing, so we can work into this new year in a better way, right?
Yes.
So then you also have some tips, Danielle, for educators specifically, right?
I have
Okay,
practical tips for both parents and educators. You
perfect.
ready?
Yes.
All right. We'll start with parents. So, if you have younger kids, especially, this is a time for you to use fewer words during any type of meltdowns. Slow down transitions, right? Because Mercury retrograde, it's a slowing down. So we want to work with that energy, not against it.
Yeah.
Repeat important information in a
Mm.
gentle way. Try your
Yeah.
best. We all have our moments. A big one, repair after conflict. That is the
Mm,
most important thing I think any parent can do.
yep.
Nobody's perfect, but if you repair, mm, it's so important and so helpful. Ask at bedtime, did you feel heard today?
Mm,
Create a simple summer structure. And then notice patterns within your family life, your routines, your communication patterns. Instead of reacting to every moment, just start to notice your
Mm.
relationship dynamic with your kids, with your partner, if you have a partner.
yeah.
For educators, this is a really great time for you to work on simplifying instructions so that when you go back to school in either August or September, you feel a little bit more confident with the way that you articulate your points. Whenever you can simplify anything, it actually helps you to feel a lot more confident.
Yeah.
Pre- Start to prepare visual schedules. You can also create parent communication templates. You can reflect on students in your classroom who you felt you didn't understand or who you felt like were misunderstood. And I would also plan for different types of learning styles if you haven't already. So, this is a great time for you to create the type of classroom that you want, to put it out there, and to actually put um, those bricks in place so that you have a solid foundation when you go back to school.
Yeah.
Mm. Love that.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. That's good.
I
I
want to
like
jump in, and also it's still sort of settling and
yeah.
resonating. Oh, simplify instructions. Yes.
That'd be so good. Yeah, absolutely. I think that our teachers and educators having been so overwhelmed and stressed that they need this downtime. Summer, it's like summer slide for the kids and summer saving for the teachers, like
Refresh.
refresh and but yeah, how can you simplify and make things easier for yourself going into the new year? And this is where we really feel like understanding astrology can be priceless for educators and take some of that stress out of your day, of your life. I mean, there's so much pressure. We want to help teachers want to stay in the field and not leave it. We need you. But yeah, so we want them to take their time this summer to take that refresh in that time. But these are practical things they can do before they re-enter that school year.
Once upon a time, in one of my conversations about Mercury retrograde, I got a visual of one of those child toys, car toys, the ones that you pull back and they
Yeah.
resist.
Yeah.
But then when you let them go, they zoom with so much joy. And I love that for Mercury retrograde. I love it for thinking about parenting. Like
Mm-hmm.
there is a friction building up within that dragging the
Mm-hmm.
car back, but it's actually building energy. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think in this world where productivity is lauded and held up as, the standard, I think there's something to the Mercury retrograde, drag the car backwards
Mm-hmm.
um, illustration that
Yeah.
demonstrates greater productivity with taking the time to go inward, to go backwards, to review.
Absolutely. And in
100%.
terms of like going backwards, we mentioned that in terms of the summer slide, a lot of teachers are like, how can we help kids avoid that summer slide? And Melanie and I had this great idea, and we just did a chat about it, about bringing back game night. And there are so many great games, especially that Melody had shared a few of them that are very like math related, a fun way to keep your math facts sharp or to learn them. So I think there's also in this innovative time of Uranus in Gemini activating this time, we're moving into the full moon in Sag this weekend as we're recording this, is bring back game night. Maybe it's like that's a retro thing, is bring back family game night as a fun way to connect and also to keep mind sharp, to keep idea,
Mhm.
their mind sharp and
Putting
thinking
connections
about,
together.
yeah, bringing those connections together. And math is a big one, but there's all different types of reading. I mean, games that support problem solving and strategy and like all of these things. So maybe there are some fun ways to keep minds sharp and prepared and avoid that summer slide that a lot of teachers worry about, I guess.
And
I don't
even
know
if you don't have the games that we demonstrated,
oh yeah, there's a bunch.
every game, honestly, every game teaches something. There are
Mm-hmm.
skills involved for almost every game. So
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about, oh, I might not have the right games. Games are a fun way to practice, and children learn best through play.
So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to make the summer fun, and also kind of ways to review our our lives, but
Learning.
also our education, strategies, I guess, if you will, or to keep our mind sharp in general. Any other thoughts for like things this summer that you could return to, review, or revisit around Mercury retrograde time?
I mean, I think for parents, I already said this, but just to give you a little bit more details, this is a great time for you to review family communication. So you could ask yourself during this time, are we miscommunicating? If so, where are we miscommunicating? Why do I have to repeat myself all day? That could be a big one. Um, where do we need more repair? And
Mm.
also, what routines are actually helping our family? So I think that that's a big one right there. I also think that, this is a great time if you are an astrology lover to review your child's Mercury placement, to review your child's
Mm.
moon sign placement as well, because those are two planets that are incredibly impactful in childhood and will give you a lot of insight into their behavior and the way that they communicate and what they need. So that's a
Absolutely.
big one. And then last but not least, again, if you're an astrology lover and you have the time, since this retrograde is going to be ruled by the moon, it's also a great time for you to have that connection with the moon. Do your new and full moon rituals, or simply go to the beach if you're near a beach or a lake and look up and make that connection. This
Mm-hmm.
astrology is an ancient practice that helps you connect with the natural world.
Yeah, along those same lines with the moon, Danielle, the thought that came to me was remembering that anytime a planet is traveling through Cancer, the moon's energy, depending on what sign it is moving through and changing every 2.5 days, will influence that planet. So we're all going to be on this kind of mental emotional ride as Mercury
Mm.
is retrograde in Cancer and the moon moves through
Mm.
each sign throughout the month, right? So, and I also had this thought of like regression. So when we get together with family we haven't seen, or on vacation, sometimes you get together and everybody kind of regresses back into old
Yes.
habits, old behaviors that sometimes weren't the best. And all of a sudden there's like conflict. And you're like, what the heck? Well, it could be the moon moving through Aries while Mercury is in Cancer and everybody's fighting because there's this, everybody's stuff is coming up that's irritating everybody that is like an old thing. You know what I mean? So there's those kinds of, I
So
think,
true.
situations to be aware of. And then when the moon's in Leo, it's like maybe everybody's on the same page, ready for a good time, ready to go out to the beach and have some fun or get out in the sun. So I think if you are someone who follows the moon naturally or you're revisiting that connection, just know that anytime a planet is traveling through Cancer, that will ebb and flow. The energies of the experience will ebb and
Mm.
flow based on the sign the moon is transiting every 2.5 days that change.
That makes
That is
sense.
such a great um, piece of reflection. That is such
Mhm.
a great piece of insight. And I just can't help but smile because I'm supposed to travel to see my parents and my brother in New York. And I always revert back to being a teenager.
Yep. It's like as
So,
soon as you enter your childhood home or like somewhere you've been, it's like all of a sudden everyone just goes back into, or when you visit siblings, you go back
Regression.
in regression into that
That's a regress.
dynamic, that
Yes.
family dynamic where you're like, wait, and like you said, do we want to perpetuate this dynamic in our family, or can we mend some fences, or can we call a truce or agree to disagree on something and just move forward and learn how to go
Mm.
with the flow a little bit because everybody's in their own you know,
Wow.
mental spiral or navigating the world, the changes that are happening in their lives on a macro and a micro level. And so having more compassion, which is Cancer, for everyone's mental state and navigating the world and the changes that are happening. And sometimes we regress because it's like, yeah, these are the people I can just fall apart and be myself with, and they're going to love me no matter what.
Yeah.
Which is often true, sometimes true, but at the same time, taking responsibility for my emotional state and, recognizing that of another state and nurturing that and saying, hey man, we're all in this together. Let's go to the beach. Let's just take a time out. Let's take a breath, something like that. So those kinds of things are real and could definitely come up.
Yeah. And so just, if you are watching this before Mercury stations retrograde and you plan on visiting family, this is going to be a good time for you to prepare yourself. And
Yeah.
astrology is proof that free will exists. So
Yes.
this has been, great. And I feel like we've definitely covered all of the
Yeah.
things for this
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde.
For sure, for sure. This has been fun. And we just, we want to do these conversations just to, again, food for thought, keep the conversation going, maybe some reminders for people. So let us know, thoughts in the comments, other topics you might want us to have a little convo on. Also, if you are looking to revisit your child's chart or do some, sessions, all of our stuff will be in the show notes where you can reach all of us or connect with us over the summer and schedule a session or take advantage of Danielle's offers. And yeah, stay tuned for more conversations with the Astrology and Education Coalition. Thanks, ladies, for being here, and look forward to the next one.
This was
Thank
fun.
you.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.